Welcome to the recap of Money Heist, from Part 1 to Part 4. Part 1 begins with the aftermath of a failed bank robbery by a woman named Tokyo, as a man called the Professor saves her from being caught by the police and proposes her a heist of drastic proportions. After a brief outline of the planned heist, the story jumps to the beginning of a multi-day assault on the Royal Mint of Spain in Madrid. The 8 robbers are codenamed after cities: Tokyo, Moscow, Berlin, Nairobi, Rio, Denver, Helsinki, and Oslo. Dressed in red jumpsuits with a mask of the Spanish painter Salvador Dali, the group of robbers take 67 hostages as part of their plan to print and escape with 2.4 billion euros through a self-built escape tunnel. The professor heads the heist from an external location. Flashbacks throughout the series show the 5 months of preparation in an abandoned hunting estate in the Toledo countryside. The robbers are not to share personal information or engage in personal relationships, and the assault shall be without bloodshed. Tokyo narrates the events through voiceovers, while Denver pursues a love affair with the hostage Monica Gastambide. Inspector Raquel Murillo of the National Police Corps negotiates with the professor on the outside and begins an intimate relationship with his alter ego, Salva. The professor's identity is repeatedly close to being uncovered, until Raquel realizes his true identity, but is emotionally unable and unwilling to hand him over to the police. At the end of Part 2, after 128 hours, the robbers escape successfully from the mint with 984 million euros printed, but at the cost of the lives of Oslo, Moscow, and Berlin. 1 year after the heist, Raquel finds a series of postcards left by the professor, who wrote the coordinates for a location in Palawan in the Philippines, where she reunites with him. Part 3 begins 2 to 3 years after the heist on the Royal Mint of Spain, showing the robbers enjoying their lives paired up in diverse locations. However, when Europol captures Rio with an intercepted phone, the professor picks up Berlin's old plans to assault the Bank of Spain to force Europol to hand over Rio to prevent his torture. He and Raquel, going by Lisbon, get the gang, including Monica, going by Stockholm, back together and enlist 3 new members: Bogota, Palermo, and Marseille, with Palermo in charge. Flashbacks to the professor and Berlin outline the planned new heist and their different approaches to love. The disguised robbers sneak into the heavily guarded bank, take hostages, and eventually gain access to the gold and state secrets. At the same time, the professor and Lisbon travel in an RV and then an ambulance while communicating with the robbers and the police. A breach in the bank is thwarted, forcing the police, led by Colonel Luis Tamayo and pregnant Inspector Alicia Sierra, to release Rio to the robbers. Nairobi gets gravely injured by a police-inflicted sniper shot in the chest, and the police catch Lisbon. With another police assault on the bank incoming, and believing Lisbon to have been executed by the police, the professor radios Palermo and declares DEFCON 2 on the police. Part 3 concludes by showing Lisbon alive and in custody, and Tokyo narrating that the professor had fallen for his own trap and that the war had begun. Part 4 begins with the robbers rushing to save Nairobi's life. While Tokyo stages a coup d'état and takes over command from Palermo, the professor and Marseille deduce that Lisbon must still be alive and being interrogated by Sierra in a tent outside of the bank. They persuade Tamayo's assistant, Antonanzas, to help them, and the professor can establish a 48-hour truce with the police. As the group manages to save Nairobi's life, the restrained Palermo creates chaos to re-establish his command by colluding with Gandia, the restrained chief of security for the Bank of Spain. Gandia escapes, begins communications with the police from within a panic room inside the bank, and participates in a violent cat-and-mouse game with the gang. Palermo regains the trust of the group and rejoins them. Gandia shoots Nairobi in the head, killing her instantly, but the gang later recapture him. As the police prepare another assault on the bank, the professor exposes the unlawful torture of Rio and the holding of Lisbon to the public. Due to this revelation, Sierra is fired and begins a pursuit of the professor on her own. The professor enlists external help to free Lisbon after she is transferred to the Supreme Court. Part 4 concludes with Lisbon rejoining the gang within the bank, and with Sierra finding the professor's hideout, holding him at gunpoint.
Thank you for watching the recap. If you liked it, then please give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to get our recaps easily.